There's a browser war that has kicked off between Google and OpenAI, and that's because last week Sam Altman announced that OpenAI have launched their first AI browser called Atlas. Hi, I'm Bybreen Samuels. Welcome to Tech Savvy Encore Academy, and in today's show, I'll be sharing some insights about this latest development. So we're old enough to remember when Google launched Chrome, and that was back in 2008. So, over the last 17 years, there hasn't been any further development when it comes to browsers. With the launch of Atlas, what this allows us to do is that we can Google via OpenAI's Atlas. So we use it as a browser because we don't kind of Google in the way that we once did. We tend to turn to these large language models. So it has definitely a search facility. Also built within it is an agent. So the agent and the search capacity is built within ChatGPT. And what this will allow us to do is to be more productive, create efficiency, so we can outsource those operational things that we don't like doing, or we want to save some time, write the email, analyze a document, summarize it, book theatre tickets, book train tickets. You kind of get the gist, all the operational things that frees us up to be creative and strategic. This all sounds great. It's currently available for Mac users, and only if you are a ChatGPT user for the Pro version, so you pay for it. There is going to be an Android as well as a Windows version, and they're coming soon. So the productivity gains sound great. However, if you're somebody who has concerns about privacy and safety, then lean in. What happens with this Atlas is that you can prompt it, you can search for it, you can do this in incognito mode. So that sounds good. It's like, oh, I can search. However, if you search using incognito mode, then it logs you out of ChatGPT, which sort of defeats the whole purpose. So that's one thing against it. A pro for it is that if you're using the search feature and you're about to access a banking site or a financial site, then it pauses it. So it offers you some level of protection. However, I think what undermines the whole process is the fact that you still have to log in to use Atlas. So you're logging in with your original, identification, which means that you're being tracked. It can track you because it knows who you are. So if you're somebody who's got privacy concerns or you're feeling unsure, unsafe, or maybe Atlas isn't for you, why not check out another browser? You can stay with the one you're already on, or you might want to try DuckDuckGo. So that's one thing to look out for. You might also be thinking, but is it safe? Does it make mistakes? Can I trust it? On the one hand, Atlas will only act when we give it permission to. That sounds okay. They could protect us. However, now, what these chat GPTs actually offer is the possibility for us to shop online because it now has built-in apps and it has the facility for us to buy things. So let's take this simple example. You're ordering a pizza, you're doing it online, you're using a large language model. So you give authorization to the agent who then acts on your behalf, who orders it. Fine. Your doorbell rings, and instead of one pizza, you have 20 pizzas. And it's like, I didn't order this. What happened? Now, don't think that couldn't happen because the European Broadcast Union, together with the BBC, they conducted research and their findings show that 45% of the information that is generated from these large language models has at least one factual issue. There's a question mark over a fact. They also found that 80% of the information has several inaccuracies. They tested this across 14 languages and different models. ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and Perplexity. So it wasn't a one and done piece of research. What they did, they were quite thorough just to see where the anomalies are. And they tested it even further because they found within ChatGPT, it was still suggesting that Pope Francis was still the Pope even after he passed away, which is quite telling. And that's why I'm a strong advocate of bringing your intelligence, bringing your expertise, bringing your domain knowledge. As boomers, as those of you in the silent generation, and those of you who are Gen Xers in your 50s, we've all lived decades. We've lived more decades as adults than we have as children and teenagers. And built within, immersed within all the decades of knowledge and expertise, we have domain expertise. And that domain expertise helps us because AI only acts on the information that we give it. So we're the input and they produce the output. So the more intelligence you can bring to these AI softwares, the better output, which means that if you notice that it's hallucinating, then you can check it, you can correct it, you can say that's not actually correct. Bearing in mind that there's this privacy issue, there's this issue that it could get it wrong. So, who could or who should use Atlas, bearing in mind what I've just suggested? If you are a pro user of ChatGPT and you use it every single day, then yes, go ahead. If you're somebody that's always doing deep dive research, feel free. If you're also someone who's a solopreneur, who's managing different online programs and projects, you're sort of being an online project manager, then it could be for you. And then if you're like a geeky geek who's been tracking tech from the 70s or 80s, 90s, and beyond, and you're kind of curious around, well, what is the future of browsing? Then Atlas could be for you. Who should possibly pause are those of you who don't use AI and you still like Google. They are tried and tested for you and you love them. Use Google. If you are already very comfortable with the browser that you're using, continue. I'd rather you understand what's happening as opposed to rushing in to try it. Wait and see how Atlas actually evolves over time. Then you can make a more informed decision whether you're going to use it or not use it. And in the meantime, if your boss, your colleagues, or your clients say, listen, have you heard about this new AI browser called Atlas? You can say, yeah, I'm fully aware of it, which means that you are becoming digitally confident. And that's a main focus for this channel, Tech Savvy Encore Academy, is that I share information that's going to help bolster your confidence so that you're digitally more astute and you can then go on to make more informed decisions. There's one other thing I want you to pay attention to, and it's the fact that we've got all of this AI and it sounds great and it's bringing us efficiencies and productivity. However, the more we interact with any of the AI software means that it's learning about us and it's storing information about us, particularly if we're using the paid models. And what can happen when we're using AI browsers? It's sophisticated enough to learn all of our idiosyncrasies and our nooks and our crannies and our nuances, our likes, our dislikes. And then it will be in a position to start curating our worlds. Some may say, well, that's a good thing, it's saving me time. But I would kind of push back against that because there's nothing better than igniting and playing with your own creativity and your own curiosity. And if these AI browsers and software curate every single one of our experiences, then what happens to us? As boomers, silent generation, and Gen Xers, we grew up in an era. I remember my little library card from primary school, and I went to primary school through the 60s. You know, we had our library cards and we'd go to the library and we'd find our books. And, you know, obviously as we move through teenage years, etc. But libraries were our staple where we could really exhaust our curiosity and we would search for things. And then we'd be, sent to an archive, or we'd be looking for things on microfiche. And all of that exercised and built our curiosity as well as our analytical capabilities, which for me, I certainly don't want that stripped away. I enjoy technology as a technologist, but at the same time, I think we should, all of us, hold on to that element of play, curiosity, and creativity. So that's just something for you to bear in mind. So, are you going to Atlas or not Atlas, as it was Shakespeare, to be or not to be? So, to Atlas or not to Atlas, the choice is entirely yours. With regards to the other browsers, Atlas is just another one. Is it better than Chrome? Not really. Is it different from Chrome? Yes. And that's the reason why, with all that I've shared here, that you bring your domain expertise. And within that, you've got your nuances, which makes you uncopyable. It's a practice that I have. It's a theme that I live with and live by. Each and every one of us has that special something. As we're interacting with these large language models, bring that to the table. So let me know. Are you going to stick with your browser, or are you going to dive in and give Atlas a try? Let me know, and I'll see you again on the next show. Bye.